Welcome back to the Nullified Tech channel here on YouTube, where Kahuna and I have got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge World Championships. It's episode 8. I'm your host, Chris. I'm joined by Kahuna again, and we've got our boy, Troy, on the live with us. Troy, welcome back to the Nullified Tech channel. How are you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. Yeah, how about yourselves?
Yeah, we're doing great. I know that this is Kahuna's first time meeting you. I've spoken to you once before, and we're so excited to have you back on because we were both very excited when we heard that yourself and Kiki would represent over in the World Championship for the Australian franchise.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I was pretty excited. Obviously, I knew it was going to happen having one afterwards, but no, I was very glad to have Kiki there as well. Yeah, not sure what happened in this episode, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, there couldn't have been a better episode to get you on because this episode was a bit more Troy heavy than what we've seen so far this whole season. Troy, as someone that went out there and played this game up until this point, seeing so little of your own content hit our screens, what has it been like, sitting on the other side? Obviously, there's a process. Obviously, the producers are trying to tell a story. What has it been like so far to see yourself on the screen very limited amounts of times?
Yeah, it was a bit strange because I didn't know how to even approach Worlds, to be honest, because we hadn't like Challenge Australia hadn't come out yet either, so I didn't know what they were going to air from that, the conversations and all the rest of it. So I had no idea what they were doing on Worlds, and obviously they're making a TV show, and there was a lot of irrelevant stuff. And I think there's only 45 minutes. I'm sure a lot of people would love an hour and 15-minute episode, so they can get a bit more context. Like I think at times it does lose a bit of context, but you can only fit so much in a 45-minute episode. And I guess with me being partnered with Amber, knowing that Amber was going to be pregnant, I think that, yeah, might have limited my airtime because I don't think that meant much to the overall story, our relationship, even though I felt like we had one of the best relationships in the house. Like, I have the utmost respect for Amber. Like, she was feeling sick for a while and really didn't want to leave me in the lurch the whole time. She wanted to stay and keep hanging around even while she was sick for me, and it was literally only for me that she stayed in the game for as long as she did. Had I known she was pregnant, I would have seriously just told her to pack up her bags and go home right from the start. But yeah, that wasn't the case. But yeah, it was a bit different viewing it now, especially even after the Australian season. I realised that like there was a lot of animosity and stuff that went down the Australian season. You would have heard probably
Mm,
from Connor and a few others, and a
yeah,
lot of it gets cut. And I wasn't ready for the amount that would get cut, I guess you could say. And I think
yeah, interesting.
people use that as well.
Yeah, because Connor and I actually sat down and did an interview after the season finished. Probably about 2 3 weeks ago. That interview is going to be up on Monday on the channel. I had to let that go through Channel 10 a couple of times before we could release everything. Obviously, not everything's going to make the final cut, but I heard a little bit about some of the behind the scenes things. And obviously, you've got Grant and Emily going out there as well, and they were kind of from that different faction that you didn't necessarily work with that tightly, I guess, in your original season, but you were seen as someone that could fall in the middle at times with Mali, and you could work with different type of alliances depending on where the power structure was going. So you played, from what we saw as an audience, it looked like you played a middle game. Were you trying to replicate that going into Wolves? Did you try and replicate what worked for you in that first season?
Yeah, I was actually. Yeah, I was trying to play the middle ground. Like I didn't want to make any promises to anybody. But I was sort of on Team Australia, so I had to stick with Team Australia, which I I wanted to do. I really did. And when Grant was there, I was happy to because I felt like I had a good friendship with Grant. I felt like I could trust Grant. So with him, I was a bit more, happy to do it. Then obviously as the season progresses, I wasn't as happy because I didn't know what the other side was doing. I didn't know what was happening, and I don't know. I feel like I got told a lot of game early, and then as it sort of went on, you get told less and less and less. But in hindsight, now looking back at it, I think maybe that was because of the struggles that USA were having with Sarah and Theo and even Danny and Tori just totally disagreeing. I just felt like they weren't helping us. What's going on? And they weren't explaining it to me either. But so it's funny watching it all come out on TV and seeing like, oh, okay, so that's what Danny was doing. Like, why didn't you just tell me? Like, I don't know. Anyway, but yes, I was trying to
Yeah,
sort of play the middle. didn't want to pick sides, but in this game where you've openly got to vote, you have to.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup. Obviously, that open vote has brought a lot of drama to the season. We even see it in this specific episode. I do want to welcome Kahuna to the podcast as well. Kahuna,
Thank
you
you.
know, watching episode 8, we're the fans. We see a limited view here, but we start off again here. Kellyanne has just pulled off what I thought was an excellent move last week, and immediately she's dealt a bad hand because Tristan is feeling horrible, and it broke my heart a little bit to see Kellyanne, who seems to be a fighter in the house, have to go through this whole ordeal with will he play or will he go? And luckily, Kaz was there to help Tristan out a little bit in this moment of you would almost say weakness, not feeling well in the game.
Is that for
Would you
me?
agree to that, Kuna? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
What was it like
absolutely.
seeing it?
Sorry, it was good to see actually, like the fact that Kaz has that relationship going back to their season with Tristan. I don't know how convincing she was versus Kellyanne, but she obviously said the magic words, and Tristan was able to pull himself out of bed. Just fascinating to see that whole play out because we've seen injuries, we've seen sickness, we've seen pregnancies, but to have 3 people with like a question mark over their head in the exact same episode, and I was thinking last we was discussing like 3 people potentially going out would ruin a season. Like as far as production goes, like if all 3 teams had to go, whatever the case may be, it was just so precarious. And then for Kaz to pull Tristan back, and obviously it worked very well for Kellyanne and Tristan as the episode played out in the daily as well.
Yeah. What was it like, Troy, being in the house, seeing, Ben, you've got Tristan, and then also Amber, all of them not feeling well at the same time? Was there a bit of concern within the house? Like, what's going on? Why is everybody dropping like flies right now?
Yeah, there was. I was also sick, and so was Bananas earlier on. So I don't know whether that just kept around the house. But Tristan seemed to have it really bad. I think the edit didn't show how close he was to quitting. Like he had the producer in. He was telling him, "Nah, I'm done. I'm quitting." And that was after his talk with Kellyanne. And he's like, "No, I'm done. I'm quitting." And we'd literally everyone in the house like, "Okay, Tristan's quitting." And that's as far as it was. And then Kaz goes, nah, there's no way. And then she just literally pretty much stormed off and into his room. And I guess I don't know whether that was their conversation or that was a retake of their conversation or what it was. But yeah, I do know that Kaz went in that room, and I don't know what magic she spoke, but man, she got Tristan off death's door because he was not. Because I was staying in the room with him, and I knew every day it was getting worse and worse and building up, and I was trying to pick him up, and yeah, he was just in the dumps. Like he was down and out. And then yeah, Kaz picked him up. And it was really good to see. And it was good the way they the way it got edited as well, because that's pretty much how it happened. Kaz rolled on in and saved the day. Yeah, Kellyanne definitely was worried about her position in the game too. She thought she was gone, and then yeah,
Yeah.
it was a full on episode. And Amber was sick, which I didn't know she was that sick at the time. But yeah, I'm sure you'll get to that when she drags and talks
Yeah.
to me. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let
Yeah,
you
no,
continue.
we'll definitely get into that. And I wanted to sort of you mentioned like you were in that room with both Ben and Tristan at the same time, both not feeling well. So you were kind of like I think stuck in between the two of them. So I'm not surprised that you were also sick while you were out there. If it was something that was contagious. I don't know how much you can talk to what actually happened, but obviously Ben ended up leaving in an ambulance, and we just don't see him come back afterwards. Were you guys as you know challengers out there told what was going on with Ben, or was it just as pretty much like, listen, Ben's medically been disqualified from the rest of the season?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was like. I did end up knowing what happened with Ben because Amber obviously ended up leaving as well. But then I still had an interview with Amber, so Amber actually told me what happened with Ben. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that,
That's
but
fine.
yeah, so I knew. So Ben told me after the show finished that what happened, and yeah, he was sick. I'm glad he left. I think he ended up staying there for like another 2 weeks or something.
Was it
Wow.
confirmed that it's all this? Because Johnny or Bananas claimed to be patient zero. He said, "Yep, it was me." Were you
Yeah,
all
I
the
think.
same? Was it all the same sickness or like different things?
I'm not entirely sure. I feel like we did all have a similar sickness or this. Like I think it's too much of a coincidence. Like
Coincidence, yeah.
none of us like could say for sure we had the same thing, but we all had very similar symptoms. We all had, except for Amber, we all had, same fever, same chills, same tiredness, and just, headaches. It wasn't nice.
Perfect for doing physical challenges. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely perfect. But luckily this week is the trivia, and let's be honest, I'm no good at that anyway. So, well, that's how I feel
Um,
anyway.
Well, it's for me as a fan, it breaks my heart whenever I see someone leave the game without a fighting chance because I know that I haven't gone through the process of having to quit work or quit my life. I know some of them are full time challengers; they do this all the time. This is their job, but others, this is their first opportunity to go out there, the MVPs, or if you're a rookie on a season, this is your first time to go out there. And seeing Janae go early in the season in the way that she had to leave after Grant injured himself in the game, that's something that was weighing on my mind. I think I even messaged you. Obviously, we don't talk about stuff that hasn't happened yet, but I messaged you and I said, I'm worried for you because I know Amber's pregnant. That's probably going to come up at some stage in the game. So I was like, this cloud has been hanging over, this whole season for me because I was like, oh, if Troy gets screwed with this and he goes without having a fighting chance, I'm going to be spewing. And luckily for you, Amber being the awesome person that she is, we're both Kuna and I are big Amber stands on this podcast. She is willing to step aside knowing that she's not feeling well and to get Casey to become your partner. Were you aware that Amber was going to do that?
No, I had zero idea. I didn't even know she was that. Like, I knew she was sick and she was feeling worse and worse, and she was starting to get really emotional about it that day. And that's when you saw that bit of a talk with us in that room. And then, yeah, we rocked up at the challenge, and she's like, all right, I get Casey leaving the game. I'm like, all right, Casey's gone. Like, Jesus Christ. And then Amber goes, TJ, hey, TJ. And I was like, what on earth is happening? I honestly had no idea. I don't even think Amber had fully committed to the idea either, until she was there and she realized
Yeah.
that Ben wasn't coming back. I think she was gonna keep hanging around if I couldn't have a partner, and that's how I really felt. And I think she sort of tossed up in her head then and went, "Oh, I'm either gonna get sicker and pull out later, or I can take my chance now." Because at this point, she didn't know she was pregnant. At this point, she had no idea. And for her to do that, for me and for Casey, I'm just so grateful. As you said, I couldn't have had a fighting chance. I could have just went, "Boom, see you later," and forgotten about pretty much. And it nearly was that. But hats off to Amber. She is such a beautiful soul, and I loved playing the game with her. She'll be my first partner, that is.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the Amber situation, right? There's so much history. I don't know how much of this you're aware of with Amber, where there's this Mean Girls club in the actual challenge show on MTV, and they have been going after Amber for a long time, calling her fake and all these kind of different things. Now, I don't know how much you can talk to this. I've been annoyed watching it at times because I've said that I think Amber is just too pure of a person for this show. I think that she wants to do not be nice and do good for other people, and then other challengers look at that because they play very selfishly and they project a lot of that feelings onto Amber out there. And I've even seen there's been some Twitter beef going on again, which I'm sure as someone that plays the game, you probably post and ghost if you're even on that platform. What was it like being in the house with Amber? Were you aware that there were some of these targets? Which, by the way, some of these issues have been between Casey and Amber. So I was actually in some ways, I'm like, even after Casey has dogged Amber in the past a few times, she's still willing to give Casey a shot in the game and be the better friend here. Were you
Yeah,
aware of
I
any of
was.
that?
Yeah, I was aware of it, because I knew, I've watched a fair bit of the challenge, so I knew that ever since Amber had won, she'd had a tough time. I wasn't aware of this Twitter beefs and that it went a lot further. I knew that they had done her wrong in the past and all the rest of it. And it was funny because when she first came up to us, it was me, Grant, and maybe Kiki or Emily. But anyway, we were sitting on the bed, and this was before we'd even picked partners. And she came, "Hey, my name's Amber," introduced herself. And she was the first one to even acknowledge me, really, I think, because I came so far down the line. I didn't really have any of them talking to me massively like Grant did. Anyway, so she came and she's like, "Oh, I just want to make friends this season. I feel like it's a fresh start. I feel like all the people who are my enemies in this game, there aren't as many of them now. Or she didn't say there aren't as many of them. I think she said, it's not the case in this one. Like she felt like it was a fresh start for her, I guess, is why I felt for her. And yes, I knew that she might come with the people pick on her as well, even when I picked her. But I don't know. To me, I didn't care. I love the way she plays the game, and she plays it with her heart on her sleeve and tries to do the right thing. And I feel like I try and play the game similar, but man, it is so hard. It is so hard. And I think she might get caught up in a bit of drama as well because you know, you have so much things being said to you left, right, and center. You're not sure what's true, what's false, where's it coming from, and really, unless you heard it from your own ears, you don't know if it's true. Like it is so hard to tell if something's true, and that's actually probably what I missed out from the Challenge Australia is because I had Marley, and we always just happened to end up on other sides of the house, and he would always hear something I didn't, and I would always hear stuff he didn't. So I can see how Amber can get misconstrued as the bad person because she might hear something that somebody else is getting stuffed over, and then she'll want to, knowing her, she would want to help them. But yeah,
Yeah,
I knew
Kahuna,
all
how do
that.
you feel? Kahuna, how do you feel about Amber's arc on the challenge now that we've seen it play out quite a few times? She's pregnant, so I don't know what her decision is going to be after this. If she wants to, stay at home, raise the kid, and obviously be a bit more present, there's a good chance that she might decide to do that. Not that she has to. Obviously, she's got a partner that can help look after the kid if she wants to go out there. And I'm hoping selfishly that she goes out and plays the game again. But if this is it, if she doesn't go out there and play the game again, what's the summary on Amber's journey out there on the challenge? Do you feel satisfied with what we've seen so far?
I mean, I love Amber and the fact that she won in a rookie season with CT. Like she got to say, I ran a final with CT and won. Like she's got, right now she's standing with Tori and Casey as far as chips go. Like they've got just as many rings as each other, right? And she got there first. So she's got a lot of status and standing within the game if she did pull up stumps and finish, on a note like this, going out with selflessness, saving her partner, and doing it with like that beautiful smile that she has. I don't think she'd have anything to regret. But I don't think she's done. I actually heard she was on the Bananas podcast, and she said she's hoping to be back for 39. She's got a baby to pay for now, so she needs those checks. That's what she said. They're very expensive, and I can attest to that fact. So I can see that she'd want to go back. I mean, Cinco didn't get a call back for USA 2, so Amber would be happy to get called back again. But I would never be disappointed to see her back again. I think she shows that she's a true competitor, like, and she's super nice. Maybe, like you said, too nice for a game like this. But as far as the physicality goes, as far as always competing and putting herself out there and leaving it all on the field, that's Amber to the T. And she tries to get along with everyone. But when in a game of, cutthroat and backstabbing, sometimes they end up in hers, I think. But I'd be happy to have her back every season.
I think
Yeah,
that's what
big
makes
Amber
her
fan too.
great, though. I think that's what makes her great, though, is she is different. She she does get backstabbed sadly, and I think that does bring something new to the show, and it's definitely fun hanging around with her in the house.
And she's got that fighting spirit. I mean, we saw it this season. The fact that she didn't want to give up, she didn't want to disappoint you, Troy, who she just met, and she knew how much this meant for you to go over there and represent Australia in the World Championship. That is what we love about her, is seeing the fighting spirit that even when she's out of the numbers, she's not going to give up. Even in her rookie season, she was out of the numbers a lot, and she had to fight a lot to get to the end. So basically what I'm hearing, Kahuna, is you're saying that Chauncey will become a trophy husband. He'll stay at home. She'll go earn the money,
Yeah.
and he'll look after the baby, is what I'm hearing.
Well, hey, like I said Cinco, didn't I? Chauncey. I mean, she's also showing like that producer brain, right? Like in the spot. If she didn't tell any producers and TJ had to make that, like she saved like two great competitors to then bring the show together, and she just did that off her own bat. Like the producers didn't come up with it, TJ did. So yeah, I'm sure they're very appreciative of the fact that she even offered
It's a
that up.
moment.
Yeah, and it made a great moment for TV. They'll bring her back if she's willing to. I'm sure they will, because strong competitor, obviously putting other people first, including the production and the show, to make sure the show must go on. And she did it. So kudos to her.
Troy, Troy, what's it like, seeing TJ operate and do what he does? Obviously, you've had a little bit of an opportunity to go on the show and have Bryony do their bit on the Challenge Australia, and now you've met the legendary TJ himself. What is it like having him out there? And are you just as afraid as the legends when it comes to disappointing TJ when you're playing the game?
Oh yeah, you don't want to disappoint TJ. I feel like it's a bit of a different vibe than Bryony. I feel like Bryony, you see her as a host, and I feel like Bryony didn't make the big choices, whereas in TJ, like I wouldn't be surprised if the producers didn't even know, and TJ was like, "Yep, I can do that." Like that's just the sort of guy he is, you know. You don't want to disappoint him. He is the man. Nah, I love TJ. He got all the time in the world for him, but yeah, you don't want to disappoint him.
Yeah, it was amazing to see. Well, let's switch gears a little bit to Casey, who becomes your partner. Kahuna, Casey, we've been hard on Casey at times in the regular seasons where we've said that Casey maybe isn't the most entertaining, but we do respect the fact that she gets to the end every single time that she plays. She's clearly a phenomenal game player. She's won the challenge before and Big Brother. So she's got the ability and the social skills to get there. But Kahuna, I don't know how you feel about it. I'm enjoying the Casey that we're seeing this season. And I'm enjoying her because she's not there with her mates. Tori is a big mate, obviously, of hers, and we saw that play out, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this episode. But outside of that, not having Joss there and not having Fessy there, and seeing Casey on the outside, having to go into the sand twice so far this season and having to fight, is actually, I'm becoming like I'm liking this Casey. And she's also there without Nani, which I think is bringing a more entertaining part of Casey's personality out, Kona. What do you think
Yeah,
about Casey's performance so far this season?
yeah, I do like Casey. I've got that Filipino thing. I have to kind of ride for her. Like, yeah, my mum taught me this thing. Like growing up, there's like anytime you see a Filipino on TV, you have to point it out and say Filipino, and that's like kind of what we do. As I don't know what it is. It's just built into our DNA. But I do like Casey a lot. She's I think with the exception of her brother, is now undefeated in eliminations, right? Like when she goes down to the sand, unless she's with her brother, she's coming back. And that's what Casey's shown. She gets to the final and she does it without causing, without ruffling feathers, without, she just plays that very, like we said, very much like Troy, able to like get along well with everyone. She's not going to be a huge personality. This is going to cause waves and upset people and annoy people. She's got Josh and Fessy to do that. And without them taking a lot of the spotlight and without them taking a lot of the attention, I think she gets to shine a little bit more. And I'm liking what we see. It's smiles all around this season for Casey. And even when she got told, you're out, again, in her own humble way, she's like, okay, that's fine. And then Amber throws her the lifeline and she says, I'll ride with this guy too. So I like the attitude and she's a performer. Whether she makes, people, the biggest thing on Casey is that she's boring. If someone's going to perform well, I'll take that boring because there's plenty of big personalities in the house to keep us entertained anyway. We want competitors as well. If you have the opposite, if you have someone who's like, I don't want to put people down as well, but like Amanda or something, right? Whose personality and TV is bigger than their performance, their challenge physical performance, then I'm
Yeah.
not as big a fan of that. I prefer someone who can go out and play and then bring a bit of personality with it, but I'll take the performance first.
See, this is I was gonna say the performance has to come first. Like if you had to
Yeah.
tell me Amanda is back on in a season, nudge nudge wink wink, I'm all for that. I want to see Amanda back on our screens because she brings a lot of messiness to the screen. That's the kind of entertainment I like. But in saying that, Troy, you were out there, you played with Casey. Did you have some sort of a relationship with Casey prior to teaming up? What was your thoughts when you knew that she was going to come over and work with you? Was this something, did you finally feel like you found your Marley out there? Because I feel like Casey has some of the similar attributes that Marley had.
Yeah, she did, but nobody will replace my Marley. I mean,
Aww.
I, I wish I did have a Marley though in the World Championship, and I felt like, now looking back on it, it's one of my regrets. I didn't quite have a Marley, but Casey for me was somebody I was working with or trying to work with. Previously I was working with obviously Amber. We were working with Kellyanne and Tristan, even Benhar and Jody, and Kiki and Darrell, and that's when we got Bananas in, and then that was with the help of Ben and Casey, and we were like trying to bring them on board with us as well. So yeah, we definitely had some game talks with Casey, and I was starting to build a relationship with Casey before all this happened because of the whole bananas fiasco where we sent bananas in. So I felt like luckily we had that, because otherwise we would have just been two total strangers who had never talked game or anything together. So
Yeah.
that was nice.
As someone that were out there playing with Casey, what is it that you believe producers see in Casey? And why do you think they keep bringing her back season after season, even if she maybe in the past? I don't think this season. I think this is, in my opinion, I'm going to make a big call here. I think this is the season I've enjoyed her the most on my screen so far, even more so than the one that she won, because a lot of the times in those seasons she hasn't had to work. She wasn't on the outs, and I kind of like the battlers. I like the people that have to fight their way to the top. That's not everybody's cup of tea, but the general thoughts out there on Casey is that she doesn't make for great TV, and that's what fans are saying, right? What do you think? Is it Why do you think she keeps coming back? What is
They
it
can
like
think what they
playing with
want.
her? Yeah, exactly. But give us a bit of a take on what we are missing, the people who are watching it from afar.
I feel like it's a similar thing with me, where her priority is winning and entertaining comes after. And it's not that I feel like it's not that she's boring, and it's not that she's not interesting. I don't think it's that, because at the end of the day, you don't get airtime. That's how you're going to look. You don't have to make big moves. That's how you're going to look. Like, regardless of if you got a personality or not. And she does. And she's a fighter. And when her back is finally turned against the wall, you might see some personality coming out of her, like you are this season. She's been in 2 eliminations so far, and she's having to she's starting to have to make these moves, which is bringing her personality more into the light, and you're starting to see it. And I think that's one of the hardest things, as you said, with all these big personalities, like, well, you mentioned Amanda before, and even Sarah and Danny this season, who are really clashing with Tori and that whole alliance and the legends. And it's meaning that a lot of the limelight's going to them, because their backs are up against the wall. Like, Danny feels like he has to fight tooth and nail every vote to try and get anything done. And so you're seeing a lot of his personality. So I don't think it's more so that she's personalityless or she's uninteresting. I reckon that's a crock of shit. I reckon she does have a lot to give and a lot of personality. It's just you haven't seen her with her back against the wall, so it's hard.
And I'm wondering,
hard to say.
I'm wondering if that is because she, like, and again, people who are listening to this is going to be like, Chris is gaslighting, but I'm not. I promise. I wonder if it's a case of her just being too bloody good at the social game. And that most of the time she's so good socially, she's so good with getting in with different people that she's never in trouble. This season, she has had to work a little bit harder because outside of Tori, I don't think there's anybody that's willing to go to bat for her in the way that Tori did in this specific episode. And now she is having to level up and play at a different gear, because if you watch Big Brother, she was never in trouble there. She had a very tight alliance, which, if you're playing a winning hand, why take risks? And that's kind of what she's been able to do over and over again. So I think people may miss the fact that not only is she good physically, but she's good strategically and socially as well, Troy.
Yeah, exactly, and that's just what I think. That's what I'm saying. It'll be interesting to see, her with a season up against her back, and I feel like, for the first little bit, she's been in 2 eliminations. Just you're starting to see that come out, and it's like you said, it is performance based a lot, and I can tell you right now, that a lot of people in that house don't want to see an elimination. End of story. None of them want to go against her. They know how good she is. They don't need her to be in there. So I think a lot of people want to work with her. That's my take from what I've seen from the way the females in particular act around her as well, is they see her as a big threat, and I guess they're scared of her or intimidated by her, but I don't believe she's deliberately making it intimidating, but I believe they are.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because Chantal, who runs the Reality Realness channel, who also sometimes comes onto the channel with Drew to talk about the challenge, she's got this belief that there is such a thing like the CT factor. No one wants to see CT in an elimination if they don't have to. So, maybe Casey's got a little bit of that intimidation factor around her as well. And I think that's a good point. But you had to work with her in this specific daily. This daily had you guys being suspended on top of this building. face down looking at the ground as you're up there and having to pull these ripcords while doing trivia. Troy, what was it like being out there doing this challenge? You've got a new partner, you don't know what she's good at. You've mentioned you don't like trivia. You have to figure this out and think straight while TJ's asking you questions, looking down at death if anything goes wrong. What did it feel like doing this challenge at this height?
Oh, it was pretty surreal, to be honest. Like, I love anything heights, and I love that sort of crap. But to be honest, I was when we got there, like, and then I was like, "Case my partner." I'm like, "Oh, sick, Case my partner." I'm like, "Beauty, like, let's do something physical." And then he's like, "And it's trivia." And I was like, "Shit!" Like, oh god damn, why is it trivia? I turn around to Case and go, "You all right at trivia?" She goes, "Is anybody all right at trivia?" And I'm like, "No."
Kiki is.
Oh dear.
Tristan,
Yeah,
Tristan.
Kiki's good. But yeah, then once we're up there, obviously together, and yeah, I felt like on TJ's maniacal laugh when you get things wrong and or fall, and it was quite full on. Like, yeah, you're looking straight down, and TJ's answering a question. You got this harness sort of pulling on you. It's not the comfiest of things. The way it was set up, you're sort of dragged into each other, and he's like, what's E equal? Thankfully, my first time I was like, "Oh, what's E equals MC?" Like, what's the rest of it? And I'm like, E equals MC squared. Like, I was like, thank God I got an easy one to start off, because I think I'm not sure whether I was more terrified of the height, to be honest, or the fact I'd embarrass myself on national TV, because I feel like
International TV.
yeah, even worse, international TV. Oh man, because I'd already embarrassed myself on national TV. I felt like
At
I should have
least
got
you'll
half
never
those
say
questions
that
right.
Australians speak Dutch. Like
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah, banana.
all time greatest.
You
You
know,
actually said, was it? Yeah, you said you'd rather jump out of a plane than hang off the side of a building.
oh no, that was Ben-Har, but
I was Ben-Har, sorry.
yeah, that
I
was
heard that.
Ben-Har.
I was
No,
like,
no, yeah,
I
but
was like, that makes a lot of sense though. Like just seeing the ground so close, hanging, knowing that one of you have to literally pull your own fate. Like it must be like the anxiety of it is worse than the fall itself. Is
uh,
the preempting.
yeah, I reckon the fact it was like a ripcord roulette was the worst part, because
Yeah.
you're pulling it not knowing whether you're falling. Like, I was just so cruel, especially for like some of the people who were super scared. Like Danny was shitting himself. He didn't want to bar, but Darrell, obviously, Sarah and Kaz, they were all struggling out there, and even Theo too. So, oh man.
Theo looks so uncomfortable out there. Like he's this tall giant, and you just see he's like, I don't know, he's got like almost like Sarah underneath him. Like, she's this little baby that he's just like protecting up there, and he's like he can't even straighten himself on that
Yeah.
gear.
Yeah, his butt bent, big butt bent out. Yeah, that was hilarious watching him up there, especially live, because I feel like it looks so much worse. And who was it? Tristan and Kellyanne were similar too, where Kellyanne was just like laying right in front of Tristan. Oh
Yeah.
man, it was a
Yeah,
good
they're both
challenge. I
giants.
loved it.
They're giant human beings. Now, obviously, you've got both the Australian teams targeting you in the spot. You had Emily and Yes targeting you, and the shock of all shocks. Without Amber being in your team, that means there's no loyalty from Darrell at this point. And he, I believe, got in Kiki's ear and started making a power move against you in this spot. What was it like, seeing this play out in real time? And then obviously knowing that you and Kiki, I'm sure going into this as the two champions for Australia, had some sort of an unspoken rule to look out for each other.
Yeah, that was sort of random too, that order. And I got up, yeah, I got up there in case like, we all good. Like she was thinking both of them were going to go for us. I'm like, nah, you kidding? It's Kiki. I'm like, there's no way Kiki's going to put it on me over Emily. Like, there's just not a hope in hell. And I guess what I didn't realize is how close Darrell and Yes were. And I was like, nah, like she was pretty much my number one in the game. And as you said, it was like this unspoken rule. I'm like, yep, she's got my back, I've got hers. We're gravy. Definitely over most people. And it was Emily and Yes. I'm like, oh yeah, beauty. She's going to support me. And then we get there, we answer the first question, we put on Emily and Yes. Emily and Yes answer the first question, they put it on us. That's expected. And then next thing you know, Kiki and Darrell get it right, which I did expect because Kiki is a genius. And they chuck it on us. I was like, are you serious? And then Casey goes, really? They did that? I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know what's going on. So we pull our thing and whatever, and then Casey goes, did you know about this? I said, no, I got no idea. And I'm like, I'm just assuming she's trying to be fair, and the next one will be on Emily and Yes. So I'm like, don't worry, next one will be on Emily and Yes. So it's all good, is what I told her while we were hanging over this building. And then we got the next one. Well, we got it wrong. Yeah, snow. Turns out there's snow in every bloody, what is it, continent, dumbass. And then and then Yes and Emily got it right, and then she put it on me again. And at that point, I was like, you even hear me? I think there. I was like, really, Kiki? And she's like, yeah. Or Darrell, and Darrell's like, yeah, you guys have 2 left. I'm like, yeah, but so do Emily and Yes. Like, why are you putting on us? Anyway, I wasn't happy, but yeah, I wasn't happy at all with
I
Kiki.
wasn't happy either. I was outraged watching it. I was so angry. I was like, what is happening? Kiki and Troy, no. Like, I couldn't, like, I didn't realize that. I was like, I don't understand. Like, is the hate, is the wanting to put against Casey more than the wanting to have the working relationship with Troy? And I was like, I don't understand that the against Casey was stronger than the with Troy. And I was, but then what you said, the Darrell and Yes having a stronger relationship, we haven't seen it either, I guess is the
that's
point.
all I can assume. Like,
Yeah.
that just must have had a strong relationship, because I thought I had a really strong relationship with Kiki, and then Kiki was, oh, he did a deal afterwards. Yeah, Kiki did it. Darrell did a deal with Yes. I'm like, so?
Yeah, what
Tell
about our
Darrell
deal?
it was dumb. Like, Kiki, what are you doing? Like, I felt like I was the one person in there that would literally ride or die for her, and I don't know, I just felt like she spat in my face. But I also know that I don't know what sort of words got weaved that whispers in Darrell's ear to make him vote that way. But I just knew at that point as well. I think Kiki came up to me afterwards. I'm just like, Kiki, it's okay. I forgive you. But why did you do it? Like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, man, for someone who's
Yeah, it's
so smart,
interesting.
she shouldn't know.
I think that where this relationship probably was built was through the 2 seasons they played together in All Stars, and then you've got obviously in that group Jodie and Kellyanne from All Stars as well. So I kind of feel like those four in a pocket. I wasn't surprised to see them work together to a certain degree because of the fact that they've played some recent seasons together. They've been out of the main show. Was there ever this power struggle that you could observe between main show and All Stars OG legends out there, or were you even aware that there was potentially this rift of current legends versus previous legends of the game?
It's funny you say that. I feel like I was sort of cluing onto it around maybe episode 4 or 5. But early on, like, the legends were so tight knit with their gameplay, because they didn't know whether we were going to swap partners at that stage. They had, or whether there was going to be mid-season twist. So they were really tight knit, and they didn't really, or to me anyway, they didn't really let me know who was working with who. Even Amber pretty much didn't let me know who her closest allies were till about the episode where Nia left, and it's just like, oh, I was working really hard with Nia, and I'm like, oh, were you? She's one of our allies. Yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. So I felt like that was the same with all the partnership, or a lot of the partnerships. So that's why you saw such a battle between legends and MVPs, because we'd already made deals or friendships with people, and it just didn't happen to be on the same friendships as the legends. Like, as you said, with the All Stars, were sort of paired with. It was like, I don't know. I guess it's like the house was split up into quarters, and each quarter, so like the MVPs wanted to work with these MVPs, and those got paired up with opposing legends, if that makes sense. So it felt like we're all just trying to clash, but then make everybody happy at the same time. It was quite bizarre. So yeah, I sort of did notice it, but sorry, I just got something in my way. Can't see the screen. But yeah, I sort of did notice it, but I didn't know to what extent, I guess you could say. I felt like they were all trying to look out for each other, but I didn't know how hard they were riding for each other. Is a good way to put it.
Now, I guess this season for me, and Kahuna agrees with this as well, because we've talked about this on a weekly basis. I feel like it's one of the best seasons we've seen in a very long time. I even said I feel like it may be my favorite season of the challenge ever. And I'm a big free agents challenge fan as well. So we'll have to see how this season concludes. before I can make such a bold statement. A lot of that comes down to the fact that the MVPs that came in this season are there to play. The quality of MVPs is so much higher than any of the people that they've had on the main show. You know, what was it like coming in with such great, fellow MVPs? Because obviously they're your competition, the likes of like a Danny and a Sarah and these players that are playing at a higher level. But what is it like to know that fans are reacting positively, I would say in general, to the newbies, because you're still seen as newer players of the show coming into this season? Do you feel proud of the fact that you're a part of that group? And do you agree that this is something we should see more of? Because the legends kind of like it's their way or the highway, but the MVPs are taking this game on and actually giving the legends a run for their money, which I'm enjoying.
Oh, I'm loving it from a viewer's standpoint. I'm the same as you. I've watched, Double Agents and what's the other one? Spies, Lies, and Allies. And I love Double Agents because they actually force you to go on elimination as well. And I'm loving the fact that the newbies or the MVPs, I guess we'll call it, weren't scared. And the other thing that made it easier, I guess, for us to play as well and not be scared is that we were partnered up with a legend and there were no walkover teams. I mean, well, maybe Argentina. Sorry, Argentina, but they were off in fairyland. I don't know. Yeah, what they were thinking. But anyway, yeah, I don't know.
Was it that obvious? Were you all looking at Argentina going, they got no chance, right?
well,
Buckley's.
you just, it's not that they had no chance, but you're like, okay, well, they're going to be a team that I don't want to put Jordan against, Jordan and Kaz against. And that's why I think you saw such a delay in play, because I know Danny wanted to take shots earlier at Jordan. I did too. I don't want to run a final against Jordan. And it was like, okay, well, let's do that shot. And it's like, I don't
He's
think
coming
they're
back,
gonna.
but
Yeah, it's not worth it yet. So then you
Yeah.
sort of hold your cards close. So I think the fact that even the MVPs were thinking like that was great for the show. The fact we were even trying to, well, the fact we are trying to do these things and we weren't just going to go, oh, let's just do what our legend wants to do. I think it was great, to be honest. And obviously, yeah, everybody seems to be enjoying it, which I couldn't have asked for anything better, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what's entertaining with this season, Kuna, is the fact that the Legends have got a blueprint that they use every single season. And they just do the same things when it comes to breaking off a couple of the rookies to come and work with them. And then they divide and conquer when it comes to voting rookies out of the game. That blueprint, the likes of Bananas knows it like the back of his hand, the rest of the Legends there, it just didn't work this season for them coming in. And early on, we're seeing these fractures, even now within the Legends, which means that Tori has to pick a side here this episode. What did you think of the fact that Tori was not willing to turn against Casey in this moment under immense pressure? Even Jordan was saying, you have to play for yourself.
Look, I'm really torn on the whole Tori Danny thing because I do 100% love the fact that the MVPs are pushing the legends. And when you say the blueprint that they use, it's not that complicated. They're just doing the exact same thing to them. And that's why they don't like it. They're like, hey, that's our play. That's what we do. And now you're trying to do it back to us. And it's uncomfortable. I get that, right? But as far as Tori, like, in her mind, I think she is playing for herself. In her mind, Jordan's not going to put me in. Casey's not going to put me in. I can't say the same for other people. And I don't mind the fact that people are I've seen on Facebook, I've seen on social media people saying, why does Danny have to like bow down to Tori's agenda? Right. And I'm like, absolutely, he does not. He's got a game that he wants to play, but at the same time, Tori does too. They just happen to have different ideas of what that game is, right? She in her head saying, I've got people that will protect us and help us get to the end. Danny's like, I want to get rid of those people. So I can see why Tori's, a little bit upset by that, because she's like, I've played this way and got to the end all the time. I know what works and I want to try to replicate that again. We're stuffing that up. And it's not necessarily just Danny's fault, but like she's chosen people that she knows will help. Danny doesn't want that help. So it becomes a difficult issue. So I'm glad she stood up for herself, but it gets to a point where, yeah, like Jordan said, he doesn't want to make certain decisions, but Jordan doesn't have that. Jordan didn't get $50,000 from Casey 2 seasons ago. So that plays a part in it too, I'm sure. So I get it, and it does make good TV. I don't know, Troy. Like I've heard, probably it took a couple of hours or multiple rounds sitting at that table. I'm sure sitting there watching it was probably like doing your head in. But she's allowed to stand up for what she wants, just
Yeah.
like Danny and Sarah do.
Yeah, I think that I agree, but then that took like 15 minutes, and that was only
Okay, sorry.
one last vote. No, but the one before that, or the first stalemate, took hours, and it just kept stalemating and went round and round and round. But I think you're right there. I just think it's a difference in strategies, and they couldn't agree on the way they want to do it. Tori is happy to get to the end and then verse Jordan. Danny wants to get to the end, but he wants to verse easier competitors, is the way I'll put it. So he doesn't want Jordan there. He still wants to get to the end, but he's also a bit more concerned about getting Jordan out, because when he gets there, he wants to be able to win. And he doesn't believe he could win against Jordan, is what obviously is what's coming across and what he feels. So that's where I think the difference is, in my opinion. And that's why they'll just button heads so much, because Tori's like, yeah, but we might not get to the end if we vote these people off. And obviously she's then paying for future seasons and previous seasons and all the stuff that's happened in the past, and then she just couldn't do it. And in the end, yeah, just voted herself twice.
I didn't even know you could
Which
do
is
that.
Me neither, but they did it. So, but that sort of forced Kiki and Darrell's hand, because everyone else was voting for myself and Amber, and then Kiki and Darrell. So it meant we had to vote for whoever Tori was going to vote for, if it wasn't going to be, me and Casey, if it wasn't going to be me and Casey. So whichever one their second vote was going to be was always going to be where we would pile our votes to create a stalemate, because Tristan and Kellyanne were in power.
Well, there's only 5 teams going to be
6.
left, right? Yeah, well, 6 teams at the time. But when you have two, the winner and the loser both sitting out of the vote, and there's only 6, like the numbers aren't there to be able to pick and choose. You have to pick someone eventually that you want, that you might not want to vote for, because there's just no one left to pick from.
Yeah, and I think Jordan's point was that it could be over with if they put their vote on us, and then there was no way we could tie it. But the
Right.
problem is she didn't want to put her vote on us, so it meant that whoever she picked, we could tie it. And then yeah, she ended up picking herself. So Darrell and Kiki picked them, and then the other two picked us, and then it was our turn, and then that was the second time round, and Sarah was looking over the table, and Danny had given Sarah a nod like, "Yep, send me in, I'm going in," and I was like, "Okay, so now if we vote Tori and Danny this time, because we weren't the last vote, we were the second last vote, Sarah and Theo could have changed their vote to Tori and Danny, and then they'll be sending Tori and Danny into elimination, which Casey didn't want to do, which, to be honest, at the time I was happy with. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's just send them in. Like, it's not us. That's fine for me. But Casey said to me, nah, I can't do that. I'm like, "Oh, you can't." And, we could have the same situation here at the other end of the table with me and Casey being like, oh, well, I'm going to put it on there because that's going to save our skin. And she goes, nah, let's just burn it. I said, all right, fine, let's just burn our vote. And then I knew it was going to be me and Kiki. I knew Kiki would get saved because Kiki and Tristan was super, super close. And I was like, all right. And then we actually said to each other, like, sure, she said to me, you want to go into elimination? I said, yeah, okay, I'll go into elimination. So then that's why we ended up burning. And then Sarah and Theo voted us, and we didn't have the numbers anymore. I don't know if it was smart gameplay, but
Well, the thing is,
yeah,
at some point, you can't be scared of going down into the sand. Like you said earlier, there's some players that are playing not to go into the sand. At some point, you're going to have to get your hands dirty, and you're going to have to go in there. And at least you've got the knowledge of the fact that you've been down there before. You beat someone in a very physical and difficult
yeah,
elimination, so you could back yourself going into this. I did want to give a shout out to the editors of the show and to Darrell as well, because if people ask, why does Darrell continue to come back every season? Because he's a legend of the game and he's someone I do enjoy on the screen. This episode showed you why they keep bringing him back. Him just, having that little bit there about saying, it's kind of like Tori and Danny is on a soap
yeah.
opera. You shouldn't have chosen me. And they've got this music playing in the background. Such a fun moment. And I do feel I've been a stan of the Darrell and Kiki duo. I feel like Kiki has brought a little bit of fire out of Darrell again this season. Darrell has been a lot of fun to watch. And such a golden moment, Troy, seeing that play out. What is it like playing with someone like Darrell out there? Because obviously, Darrell is a true OG and a true legend of this game. I don't know if you watched all the way back when he first started, but the only person ever to win 4 seasons back to back.
Yeah, he's he actually maybe a bit like Casey. Like he's a chiller, doesn't want to rock the boat, just happy floating. But man, he has some good one-liners. But anyway, he's happy, floating along. But it's the same sort of thing. People sort of don't want to see him in a final, but they also don't want to see him in elimination. So he ends up like flying the boat, and then whenever somebody thinks they can get him out and he'll lose in elimination, they throw him in. But not this season, as you said, and I feel like Kiki did light a bit of a fire under Darrell's belly this season. I feel like Darrell was trying to coast again this season, and Kiki's like, no, we got to do this, we got to do that, and then the one time, I guess Darrell takes the reins, and then he ends up getting voted in. So, oh man, yeah, that was
Well,
funny. So
you,
yeah,
you ultimately you're chosen. You got to go down in the sand. You got to
yeah,
do this thing. It's a puzzle where you have to work with your partner, and obviously there's two very different strategies. We obviously see Jody and Benya's on the actual contraption that you've got to pull up and down, and Jody's just letting him fall every time, and he's losing his sort of bearings in regards to what's going on. Where you're very methodical, you lower Casey down slowly as she's giving you the symbols. What was it like working down there with Casey? This is only the second time that you have to work together now. What was it like to find that you just have the Zen mode between the two of you? It seemed like you were in a flow state throughout that whole elimination.
yeah. So I come from Ninja Warrior, and she's a veteran of this game, and the pressure in Ninja Warrior, I still feel like is or can be twofold of being in that sand. Like that feels a lot more like Ninja Warrior than the dailies, as an example, because that is do or die, and that's same on Ninja Warrior. You fall on the obstacle, that's do or die. So I'm used to incredibly high pressure situations and having to be extremely precise. Like I'm up in the air swinging, doing a lache. If I undershoot that lache, if I miss my hands, I'm in the water. And it felt like I was back in that state of mind when I compete on Ninja Warrior. All of a sudden, I was in the sand. I'm like, okay, I just need to be on. I need to be clear. I need to be concise, and we just need to get it done. And man, I couldn't ask for a better partner in Casey because she was just the exact same. I lifted. So what I did is first, because that was heavy too. So Jody, I totally understand why she just let him drop, man. That thing was heavy. Like it was heavy before anybody got on it, and it was heavy after somebody was in it. So like it was, and the hardest bit was lowering it. Like I totally understand why Jody just dropped him, but I knew that I didn't want Casey to be frazzled. So if I just lowered her slowly, hopefully she, as you said, she'll keep her wits about it. But yeah, I had a totally different strategy, I think, than Benhar and Jody as well, in the sense that you didn't really see much of it. But it got to the point where after the first lift, and she told me what was there, and then I actually got all the pieces out and spread them along the sand and looked at all the pieces. And then I was like, oh, there's multiple of heaps. So the next time I lifted her up, I told her what I wanted. So I said, oh, I want all the light blue pentagons and tell me which way they're pointing. So then I'll lift her up, and then she'll tell me where all the light blue pentagons and the way and which way they're pointing. So I already knew what I was after, and I had to actually remember less, if that makes sense, because I already knew what piece she was going to say because I had
Very smart.
them ready to go.
Have you done a lot of puzzles and things like that, just in your daily life outside of doing challenges? Because obviously we know physically you're capable, but even in your season, you had to do pretty good on those puzzles because the challenge doesn't. That's what I love about the challenge. I
Yeah.
personally do obstacle course races. I love them because they show your weaknesses. I do Spartan and OCR
Spartan?
racing,
Yeah,
stuff like
nice.
that. Yeah. So not your level, obviously, not even close. But I love the fact that it showcases your weaknesses. And it's similar with something like CrossFit. It's similar with something like the challenge. It showcases your weaknesses because you've got to be an all rounder. So, being this good at figuring this puzzle out, is that something you've practiced before, or where does it come from? It's just you're just a practical person in general, or what's your secret?
Yeah, I think I'm just a practical person, like you said. Like I believe, except in my day-to-day life, which is kind of odd. Like in not organization, but I believe in like a systematic approach in work life, and I'm a gymnastics coach. So you approach something with a system and you stick to it. And I'm a carpenter by trade. So that works very well. I'm constantly having to practically think. I'm having to come up with my own solutions. And I feel like that helps massively on the challenge. And I was already good at puzzles as a kid, and I used to do heaps of them. And then leading up to the Challenge Australia, I did heaps of puzzles. I did lots of tanagrams because I was a fan. so I kind of knew what to expect. And yeah, I was a bit lucky in that sense. That yeah, I felt like I am, and because I am a carpenter, I'm constantly looking at plans and having to dissect and read a plan, which I don't know if you've seen what architects do these days. Sorry to all the architects out there, but some of your plan drawing is just no good. And we're the ones left to try and solve their puzzle that they're putting in front of us. And we're like, okay, that's how he wants me to build it. So
I
I
tell you
do
what,
feel like that came into effect.
architects are going to be one of those first jobs that's going to disappear as soon as AI takes over. They'll just have AI plan out all of these different things. So watch out, architects. But Troy, you've listened to us this whole season, and you've been such a great supporter of the channel. And both Kahuna and I appreciate you so much for engaging with us so much, and being engaging and being available to talk about the show. You've heard all of the different opinions, the hot takes, the not so hot takes.
Yeah.
I hope that Kuna and I, what we try and do is we look at things from both sides. So, like how he just said, this is Tori's gameplay, and maybe I stand Danny's gameplay. We come at it from all different angles because we want to be fair, and we know that we can only see a certain amount of what actually goes on out there. I want to give you an opportunity. What has been the biggest thing that we've gotten wrong so far on the podcast? Because obviously you're listening and you know a lot of what's happened behind the scenes. Call us out. What have we completely just gotten wrong as fans looking at the show, talking about it at this stage? Was there anything you wanted to set the record straight on while you've got the opportunity?
Oh, it's hard with it's hard with you guys because I do feel like you guys cover a lot. But I feel like what the fans have got wrong is that they're either Danny or they're Tori or they're the legends. And that's not the case. I don't and that's why I feel like you guys don't necessarily have it wrong, but I feel like the fans do because they're like, no, Danny's right. And it's like, no, Tori's right, or Bananas is right, or whatever. And it's like, nah, it's not like it's like everything else in life nowadays. It's not black and white. There's grey, there's blue, there's red, there's all different colors. And I think for me, what I appreciate is I still do appreciate those differences, and then actually being there and witnessing it, I just feel like, yeah, that it was quite polarizing. And I just want all the fans just just try and see both sides of the story, I guess.
Yeah.
is
It's
my
like
point.
just relax. It's I know it's called
Yeah.
the World Championship, but it's not the actual World Championship, okay? Because
Yeah.
we know if it was the actual World Championship, the US would have done that on their own, like they do for basketball and
Yeah.
for American football and all that type of stuff. No, I get what you're saying, Troy, and I think one of the things for me personally, what I'm hoping as this channel continues to grow, and hopefully we get more challenges on in the future, is that we give more challengers a platform to come and talk. Like I'm happy for anyone, any challenger, if they ever wanted to come on to come and have a chat and say, Chris, Kahuna, this is what the fans are getting wrong. This is what actually happened. Because I feel like giving people a platform, giving people an opportunity to say their bit is important because on the show, the edit dictates how people think and feel about you. And
Yeah.
the edit can make you love you or it can make you hate that person the next season. It's a very powerful tool that the producers have when they're creating these shows.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was happy, and I sort of wanted to come on today because I did want to get my opinion across. Another thing on that Danny and Tori situation that the fans think Danny's right, Tori's right. You know what? I reckon if Danny just had done what Tori wanted, it would have been fine. If Tori had just done what Danny wanted, it would have been fine. All they had to do was just work together, and the whole game would have been over. There wouldn't have been this big thing. I'm telling you right now, because we would have had the numbers like Australia and USA at the start if Tori had to come on board with Danny, and if Danny later on, or like now, had gone on board with Tori, they would have had the numbers, or not later on, or earlier on, sorry. Yeah, Tori would have had the numbers. Like, they would have had the numbers to do what they wanted. So that's what I think of that whole situation, is they just needed to work together and they would have been A-okay. But maybe that was their grand strategy. I don't know, because at the moment it seems to be working for them. They haven't seen elimination and they're nothing but at odds with each other. So you tell me, is the greatest game move of all time or the worst?
I was gonna say, like, as a competitor, when you're out there and you're seeing these two fight all the time, you're probably thinking to yourself, I don't have to worry about them. They're clearly not going to be able to work together in a final because they're constantly fighting out there. But Tori and Danny, if you sleep on them, I think they're both very capable challengers that could do extremely well in a final. Personally, I I hear you on that. I think Tori and Danny both had legitimate plans for where they were. If you put yourself in their shoes, if I was a new person coming into the challenge and I was in Danny's shoes, someone that has not run 10 finals like some of the other competitors out there, I would probably want to go with people that I know I can beat at the end. I don't think there's any point going to a final unless you go to the final to win. But that's my strategy and my thinking about that. Danny obviously doesn't have to worry about having people there to have his back on the next season because he may or may not play in the next season. He may not want to come back even. With Tori, this is her career. This is what she does every single season. She's got some deeper connections that she's got to manage, I think, going forward in the franchise. But Troy, it's been phenomenal to have you on this recap and review. You gave us so much behind the scenes info. I'm so happy that you got an opportunity to explain what you were thinking and a little bit of your thoughts on the game. Like I said, the invitation is open for you to come and join us again when the season has concluded, or whenever you want to just talk about your game in general and maybe some of the things that you didn't get the opportunity to talk to us about today.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Maybe I have to jump on after I watch you guys talk and jump in the comments and be like, "No, this is what happened." I'm kidding.
You can come for me if I call Casey out at any time. You can just be like, Chris, you're being too harsh on Casey again. You need to go into the timeout corner right now.
Hey, look, you can be harsh on who you want.
Nah, listen, it's all honestly. I say this in all honesty, it's all love to all of the competitors that go out there and play the game. It's just the game at the end of the day, and I think some people take the game way too seriously. They follow these people in their personal lives and what happens outside of the games. It gets a little bit intense, but for me personally, I look at it as a game, and I'm very appreciative of the fact that so many people are willing to go out there and create this entertainment for people like myself and Kahuna to enjoy. Kahuna, any final thoughts, final words from your end before we wrap this up?
I just want to remind people that before Challenge Australia, I picked Troy to win, and he won.
Yes. Yeah.
And this season, now that you got Casey. Not that it would have been different with Amber. I think you would have gone very far. But you're going to the finals. I'm calling it now, and I'm hoping that what I say from my lips to God's ears, we're going to see Troy for a while left in the season. And fingers crossed, Troy, I hope you get a chance at the main show, and that even if Challenge Australia doesn't happen again, we hope that you're going to be on the show for a long time to come, because you are an absolute star when it comes to a game like this.
Cheers, I try my best, that's for sure.
Yeah, so Troy, are you you just mentioned you're a carpenter and all that, you've got your day-to-day job going on, but if the producers come calling, are you on the next plane out there for 39?
They might want to come calling soon, because if I'm about to book a holiday, and if that holiday is when the producers call, I'm sorry, but I'd literally cancel a holiday for the Challenge Australia with my girlfriend. If I do it again for the Challenge season 39, I might not have a girlfriend. So,
yeah.
So at the moment we haven't booked the holiday. So they want to come calling.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully hopefully you get that call. I really want to see the likes of yourself and a Kiki make it over to the main show. I think you both bring so much value in different ways to the show as well. So I really hope you get that opportunity. But Troy, that's it here for now. Is there any place that people can follow you? Obviously, you're Dirt Ninja on Instagram. Is there any other things you want to make people aware of that they should be aware of? You've got a gaming chair there. Do you do gaming on Twitch or anything like that?
I did for a little bit, but not anymore. I did do gaming on Twitch, but no, just on Instagram at Troy.Cullen with 2 N's. But yeah, or Dirt Ninja. But yeah, just mainly Instagram is my main platform that I use. Jump on it.
We'll go follow.
Cool shit.
Yeah, go follow Troy. You know, Troy's really one of the real ones. He engages with the fans very positively, and it's been fun talking to you, Troy. And for now, we'll say goodbye to everyone, and we'll catch you guys next week when we do episodes 9 recap and review. It's going to be a tough one to follow after this one, but thank you so much.